documents need to go forward, which can be safely held back. And we do this in conjunction with the IBM infrastructure that you potentially have already in place. And all of that leads to, once you've identified what is to be deleted and you've gone ahead and destroyed it, that which you're keeping for the long term, right? There are long-term digital archive capabilities that we have called digital record centers, DRCs, into which you can send your either paper digitized or digital records for long-term archiving, right? And this will be, as I said before, a single pane of glass view through the AccuTrack and other systems that we have, so that whether it is off-site or on-site, whether it is paper or digital, you have one view to it for all of your purposes.
If I could just add one more comment on that prior slide. I mean, that's an important message, not only to records managers, but also risk officers really care about it. Obviously, the general counsel really cares about it, and the CIO really will care about it, because on the far right-hand side, really what you're attempting to do is drive down cost in a big way by taking information that's occupying very expensive disk space to less expensive disk space that may not require rapid access. So,
exactly.
Yeah, that message appeals to a lot of different constituencies
within the organization. Yeah, and so then the final thing is, as I said before, once you have collected the documents, you probably want to, if possible, take a look at them yourself, your organization, right? So that you can go through them, figure out which can be, which needs to be sent to your outside counsel or to the outside vendor. And remember, once they leave your house, they're going to cause a lot of expense. It's like children, right? And what you can safely hold back. And so the Iron Mountain Stratify group has just announced this new product called Stratify eVantage, which is basically a box that you can have inside your environment that will help you go through the documents you collected and do some review yourself, so that you're sending less data outside to the outside counsel, right? And then whatever you send outside, either through eVantage or otherwise, the lawyers, we have another system called ECA, the early case assessment, where the lawyers can go through them without paying too much expense to the vendor to go through what is really important for the litigation and what is just spam or some irrelevant documents, and you only pay for the stuff that you need, right? So bottom line is, you need to have one transparent view of where your documents are, how you're managing them, what your retention schedules are, what your destruction policies are. You want to make sure that you have a proper governance process that spans the format, spans the location, on-site, off-site, and so on. And this is not rocket science. It's actually possible to do it and do it well, right? If you put in the right thought to it, right? So nothing to be too overly concerned about. It's just something that you need to invest in, right? So that's summing up. If you want to take a few seconds to talk about the first one.
Yeah, I'll just highlight a couple of the points that I made earlier. I mean, that e-discovery is here to stay. It's going to likely impact your lives on a go-forward basis. It's an opportunity for you to really help your companies drive down risk and cost. I just don't think it's avoidable. It's extremely challenging. It's complicated. So and I would strongly advocate that you look back at that EDRM that I got confused on the left and the right. But the fact that really taking a proactive approach, thinking of it as a repeatable business process that needs to be efficient and that is not reinvented every time is a really important theme. So, Ramana?
Yeah, and we're here to serve. So anything that you need, whether you use Iron Mountain services or not, please do consider talking to us to give you our perspective, the benefit of our experience as you deal with this issue. But please deal with it, right? Please be proactive. Don't be reactive. Whether you end up using Iron Mountain services or not, doesn't matter. What well, maybe it matters to him, I shouldn't say that. But what matters is that you do it right. Thank you.
Great job. Great job. That was awesome. You really were awesome. Great job. Excellent. Well done. Thank you very much for taking so much time to listen to us this morning. Great job explaining that. I don't know if you choreographed that, but you guys could be the Lewis and Martin of e-discovery. We would like to take some time to answer any questions you have either about what Dave and Ramana presented, some of the thoughts I shared earlier, or really any topic at all. So to the extent that there are any questions or concerns, I realize that we're running right up against 1 o'clock, so also feel free to leave if you're due at another session. We won't be insulted by that. And that produced the right response. But please, any questions at all? Well, I realize that we are. Oh, I'm sorry. Where are we? Thank you. Hi.
Will the presentation be available later?
Yeah, the presentation, we'll put the presentation online on the website, on Iron Mountain's website. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, I mean, I can take a stab at that. I mean, what we've seen our clients do to attack that really important question is really look at the functional area of the individual employee. There are certain functions where email communications, for example, if you're in a contract group where you're communicating with your clients and you're communicating electronically terms and conditions of a contract, that would be a business record. So generally what we see our clients doing is you look at the functional areas where real business records are likely to be created on a routine basis. Focus on those. All others, what we see people doing or what we see our clients doing is having the technologies that allow you to opt in an email to be tagged as an official business record rather than having employees analyze or categorize every single piece of content. This comes back to the whole theme of really taking a risk-based approach, simply apply it to email, and again, focus on the functional areas that are likely to be creating that kind of content. And it obviously depends on the type of business that you're in. Hope that helps.
So it's just a combination of the custodian, the person who sent it, received it. It's a combination of whether the email contains certain words or belongs to a certain kind of certain set of categories. And there are ways of applying technology to automatically tag the documents. And what he said is key. You don't want to rely on humans to tag the documents as important or not. That doesn't fly.
There's a question right here.
I have a question on file shares and PSTs, if you will, the unstructured data. What percentage do you apply? Email was 90-10. What have you found in your experience in looking at the unstructured and PSTs? What's the percentage of what we'd consider a record and information that basically you can get rid of?
And I can take that as well. I mean, economists often answer a question with a standard response, which is it depends. And that's absolutely the answer here, because it depends on your business. It depends on what kind of information is stored in those file shares. So you may have cases where actually scanned contracts, and coming back to that example, are sitting out there in a file share because that was the way that the business process was designed to store the information. On the other hand, you may have a lot of garbage out there where you have draft versions of documents or of marketing materials that may have no real long-term business relevance. So I don't have a rule of thumb on file shares. It absolutely depends on the type of content, how the systems are being used, and also fundamentally just how they've been managed historically. Some companies do a great job of scanning the content and vigorously and aggressively culling content that's not a business record or falls outside of a retention practice. Others, just because storage can be cheap, let you store as much as you like. So I'm sorry I don't have a rule of thumb on that one.
Yeah, and there are also issues like duplicates, right? Email file shares tend to have, huge majority of it is just duplicated information. So if you're not doing anything proactive, if you're not deleting duplicates, if you're not, applying some rules of logic in the beginning, then by the time it gets to someone like Stratify for a litigation event, right? And then you're deleting stuff because it's not responsive. We found